Hi, Sarah. Hi, Audrey. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so excited to host this panel. Audrey, how amazing does your activation look for Glam
You.
Corner?
Thanks so much.
If you haven't had a chance, please go over there and check out a few of those beautiful pieces. Now, Glam Corner, we're going to start with you, Audrey. Glam Corner will be 10 this year. Congratulations, a
Thank you so
decade in
much. Wow,
business.
a decade.
A decade. So why don't we start by, can you give the audience just a brief overview of Glam Corner if they're not familiar with the business and
Yeah.
how you service our wardrobes?
Absolutely. So Glam Corner was founded in 2012 by myself and my other half, my husband, Dean. Again, like the idea actually came from my personal frustration with full of clothes, nothing to wear. I believe a lot of ladies in the room can definitely relate. You're like, oh no, I have nothing to wear, but there are like a lot of things. And, like it's, for me, really started off from that personal frustration. And I was actually looking around in the market. We got invited to a wedding and I just wanted a simple little day dress. And there are, of course, traditional boutique rental businesses. But I actually was Googling and I actually came across Rent the Runway in the States. And I'm like, yes, that's great. I can hire it, problem solved. But unfortunately, they actually didn't. They don't deliver to Australia, and I was thinking, why? Like I'm having this problem, and I know a lot of my friends and are having this problem, but like kind of like that little voice kind of like stuck with you. You're like, why? And then like one day, I spoke to Dean, and I was like, you know what? I don't know why, but like let's give it a go. And we actually stocked 30 dresses. We actually bought 30 garments, and we set up a Facebook page, and that's pretty much, I guess starting with friends and family liking the page, really good support there. Starting from there, and then my goal at that time was just to have 100 customers. But I guess 9 years in, and our community has shared over 1,000 tons of clothing to date. And for me now, our mission is so much bigger now. We really want to play a role in help accelerating the transition towards a more sustainable and circular fashion economy. So hopefully it's not a very long story. I feel like I could go on for like the whole day, but that's where we are.
Amazing. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later in the chat as well. But for many businesses, last year was a roller coaster ride and no one is exempt from that. So I wanted to know, how did you and the business fare last year?
I have to say, definitely one for the books. And when you're building a business or a career, I think that you get tested all the time. A lot of challenges. Like when we started in 2012, there was no such thing as like a centralized rental platform. So we really have to start and build an industry in a way. So that was challenging to really educate. I guess to build that platform for the customers and also for brands as well. That hey, we want to rent your products. What do you think? So there every different levels of the business stage that we're in, a lot of challenges. But definitely, I feel that with COVID, it's one of those things that it was hard for the business because again, Glam Corner, we're in an event business. We want to celebrate people's lives and their special moments. That's why we do our business. We want to enrich people's lives and we want to bring joy. And it was hard. And also the thing is that we are a venture-backed business. It's like you are on a high-speed train and you're on a full speed, on expansionary mode. And it's like, how do you stop? Like you need to really stop the train really fast and really carefully as well. And we really, drew out a 30-day plan in terms of our, in terms of which are the areas that, we kind of have to kind of, in expansionary area. And even though we're always a high growth business, we always have that mentality that you need to have your good unit economics. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to bring back really quickly when things are not going your way. So definitely I think that having really great team, great investors, and I think really having are really great customers. I think our customers really took care of us during that time. And what we found was that our subscription business was very resilient. It definitely surprised us in terms of how resilient subscription business is. And we really asked our customer, why are you still subscribed to the subscription business? And they said that they really want that one thing that is normal in their life, that Glam Corner box still coming in. When everything is going crazy and the unknown, they still want this little box, and that they're opening up that joy that they have. And of course, our pre-loved business, definitely we saw growth as well. So I feel that even though things were hard, you also learned so much about the business. And Dean and I, we really reflected it. And it's about what's the next 10 years look like for Glam Corner.
Yep.
And it was hard, but again, the saying goes, smooth seas don't make skilled sailors. But I feel like after the deadly storm, I don't mind a little bit of a smooth seas. That's for sure.
I think a lot of people would be in the same boat with that one. Now, Sarah, we're going to talk to you about your business, Miss Tyler, which I think is just such an incredible idea. It's a much younger business than Glam Corner, but it's got really big ambition. So can you tell us a little bit about your business and your mission?
Yeah, so I had the idea for Miss Tyler back in 2014, so I've had the domain. I've been paying like my $17.99 every year, but I didn't start building it until January last year when I returned from New York to join an incubator and started to build it then. So we incorporated in March, we launched our first app in August, so it's super
new.
young.
Yeah.
But we've had 85,000 women download our app from over 100 countries. The US is the major market, and then Australia, and then the UK, so that's super exciting. But we're sort of super young, and even where we are today is we still don't have the product that I thought we would launch with. We sort of pared back all the features because we had to sort of just go live.
Yep.
And essentially what our app does, I personally am not very fashionable. I don't really enjoy...
You don't look
well,
like you're
so
unfashionable.
I went on to Q today and I bought this coat because it was the first thing that I saw. But I used to just always struggle, but I still have to get dressed every day. And I know that when I like what I'm wearing, I feel more comfortable. And then I used to go shopping with my friends who were so fashionable and they just always looked amazing, but they weren't good at shopping for me because they'd mastered the art of shopping for their height and their size and their coloring, so they knew exactly what to do for themselves and they had no idea really what to do for me. So I used to just think, I wish I could just find somebody who is my height, my size, my bra size, my coloring, more fashionable, and copy them. And it used to surprise me that you couldn't just go onto Instagram, or there was no way that you could do this. And so that's essentially, I'd hoped somebody else would build it, but they didn't. And so I used to always have ideas and be chatting to my friends, and it kept being the one that people said,
is it just niggling away at you?
Build this.
Yep.
This is the one out of all your ideas. This is the one that we want to use. And so it's hard to build Miss Tyler, though. So there's other businesses that you can build that don't require capital, which is very difficult to raise. But Miss Tyler is a marketplace, so you need to have three sides of the marketplace. We need to have women contributing clothing, and we've got like women going on there to look at the clothing, and then you've got brand partners. And because what we're doing is so hyper-personalised, we're basically matching women who look similar so that they can get fashion inspiration from someone who looks like them. It means that we need to have a diversity. So we need to have all different heights, all different sizes in all different heights, with different shapes, with different colours, with different ages and ethnicities. So really, it was hard to start. And the way we approached that chicken and egg was we actually took 400 celebrities and scraped their details. So you can literally Google Jennifer Aniston bra size and hips, bust, waist measurements. So I spent a lot of my time doing data entry. And actually, I started doing this database before I even started building it.
Would have been so
I know,
interesting.
I know. But I started actually building this database like over the years, sort of like in my free time, just to kind of validate that that was possible. And then I thought this would be a way that I could launch. So we launched with that in August, and then we introduced Real Women. Celebrities are real women, but not all real women are celebrities. But we launched Real Women in February, so we were sort of just recruiting. So we're super young. I expect to have another 450 downloads today because it's from the App Store or Google Play. And it's Ms. Tyler, which is like my
MYS.
styler. And
Yep.
then you switch the S across.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you everyone for downloading it.
So what's been the response so far from both contributors and users? So that's part one of the question. And part two, did you find someone who was a carbon copy of you that you were able to steal their style?
Well, I'm 100% matched with myself, which is good because the algorithm's working. But yeah, so the way it works is you download the app, you put in some body data, and then we serve you up all of our women from most like you, so your body double at the top, and then least like you at the bottom. And then you go through and say, I like their style, I like their style. So that's who you follow. And then your feed is essentially based on your body and your style. The response has been amazing. Like the number of people that have reached out to us and said things. I mean, one of the most memorable ones was a woman when we first launched Women in February, and she said, thank you, I feel content. I spent my whole life feeling fat and ugly, and now at the age of 78, I feel human. And I was like, oh my God. Like,
amazing.
Like, one, how did a 78-year-old find this app? And she's not my mother, and she's not related to me. And second of all, like, how is it that we can spend our lives just feeling so bad about ourselves? You know, and it takes something like this to all of a sudden like feel represented. And so we've also had women reach out and just sort of like, do you know how many times I've Googled tall size 14? Or like, you know, do you know how many times I've done this or that? Like, or I've been searching for an app like this for so long. And I think sometimes the best ideas like seem so obvious when you hear them. And you're like, yeah, of course you would do that. But like nobody else had built it.
Yeah.
And I guess it's hard to build.
Yeah, but you did.
But we did. And our contributors, I mean, the way, I guess our contributors have really come to us from a values perspective. So like when we asked our contributors, like, why are you with Miss Tyler? The number one reason was because they wanted to inspire and empower other women. The second was they wanted to be part of an inclusive community. 3, they wanted to be part of the next big thing. And then 4, they wanted to build an audience. And over time, they'll also make money, but that was like by far like the lowest priority.
Yep.
So the response honestly has just been incredible.
Oh, that's fantastic. We're going to jump to you, Audrey. I want to talk about some of the partnerships that you've done. You've partnered with brands like Spell and Camilla. Can you talk about how that works with you and your business, and also what the impetus was for this new approach?
Absolutely. Excuse me. Sorry, I was prepared. I'm going to probably have like a cough attack or something like on the stage.
I'm supposed to jump in.
Just a little. I told Sarah, please jump in if I'm having a little bit of a cough. So definitely, like for us, over the past 9 years, we actually had to build our proprietary reverse logistics platform, and it's really for us. We were building that platform to solve business problems and also to serve our customers. And we didn't realize that by solving our own business problems that we're becoming a fashion like technology business along the way as well. And you know, like to date, as I mentioned, our community has shared over 1,000 tons of clothing to date, and it actually took us 9 years. You know, like it is impressive number, but it took us 9 years. So Dean and I, we've decided that, you know, I guess this is one of the revelations that we had during 2020 as well, is that we have this platform that we have built. How can we actually enable that platform to brands and retailers so that that 1,000 tons of clothing can be done in maybe 3 months, in one month or one day? Like, how can we do that? Because the fashion waste problems that we're seeing in the industry, it's a industry-wide problem, and Glam Corner alone, we can't solve it. It's too big. It's a big problem that we have to solve it together. And for us, you know, like we were really proud to help enable David Jones, Spell, and Camilla to enable the fashion rental platform for them. Like, you know, it's a really monumental milestone for the company, and I think that it's also for the rental industry, also the second-hand industry as well. Like, you know, if you tell me 10 years ago, you know, 40 square meter room and 30 garments that, you know, like we would be helping, enabling these brands and retailers, I'd be like, no, you're kidding me. But like, you know, I think for now, like what we would love to do is we really want to help brands and retailers to enable the rental platform, and we really want to be part of their sustainability journey. And you know, like I think every brand and retailer, their sustainability journey is very different, and we just want to play a little role in their big journey. And that's where we are at. And I know that we do have a few brands in the pipeline as well, which I cannot share yet at the moment, but keep tuned, and a lot is coming.
Oh, that's so exciting. Sustainability is something that we talk about literally every day in the office, and it's something that we feature in the magazine every month. And it's just a non-negotiable nowadays with fashion as well. And
Absolutely.
it's so exciting to hear those steps that you're taking towards creating more
And,
sustainable business.
like I
Yeah.
believe that I think that it's no longer a trend, or you can't be doing greenwashing. Like if you're in the fashion industry and if you don't have any sustainability initiatives or practices in place, you're not going to be relevant because it's a very serious problem, and the consumers are asking for it. What are you going to do about it? Like Australia is the second largest consumers of textiles per capita in the world, and which is crazy. And like Australian buys 27 kilos of clothing a year and discards 23 kilos of it. These are really serious and significant number. And it is scary. So I really believe that for future of retail and like for us to meet UN sustainability goals for we need to have responsible consumption and production practices in place.
Can I just put a comment in there?
Yeah,
as well? 'Cause
absolutely.
I completely agree. And with Miss Tyler, it's not just about like trying to find clothes that look good on you, but it's also about sort of solving this fit issue. And I think a fit issue is like one of the biggest inefficiencies in fashion right now. So the stats are that when you buy something online, 91% of the stuff that you buy won't be the right fit. And then we return 30 to 40%, and that's growing, which is like a huge amount of returns. And then that means that you're left with a bunch of the stuff, like, as you say, that's in your wardrobe but doesn't quite fit right, so you probably don't wear it. So your wardrobe's really inefficient. So if we can try and get fit right, we're going to reduce all these returns, all that extra packaging and handling. A bunch of the returns that can't be resold go to landfill. And all of a sudden, like, we have these efficient wardrobes where we don't need to buy as much. And I was actually, for 5 years, a devout user of Rent the Runway in the US, and we used to rent all my clothes, and it's amazing because also it gives you a chance to like try something, and if it's not quite right and you're not going to wear it, you can return it, and it's not something that's stuck in your wardrobe until you throw it out like 20 years later when you feel less guilty about it.
Those stats are incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so the cost of returns to the industry is
Yep.
approaching $1 trillion a year.
Yep.
But if you sell something online, you can't not offer free returns. And the easier you make it to make it returnable, the
Yep.
more comfortable people feel buying. So if you look at the Iconic is so easy to return, which makes you feel so comfortable buying, but it also makes you feel so comfortable buying it in 3 sizes, knowing that you're going to return 2 or return all 3. So it's kind of like a hard thing because it has to happen,
Yep.
but we just need to get fit right.
Yep.
And that's where I think a lot of people are trying to solve fit by matching a person to a product. But again, like, we use size, and size is just like such an oversimplification. It doesn't take into consideration height and curves and, all the stuff that makes our bodies unique. So that's why in our model, we match women to women.
Yep.
And then the women, if you find your body double, they'll try it on for you.
Yep.
And they'll tell you what fits. And it might be this size and this brand and this size and that brand. Or maybe it's like it just doesn't suit you, but this thing really does.
Yep.
Or this is how you wear it.
Yeah, that's just so cool. Now we're going to talk about raising capital, because that's something you've both had experience with. Sarah, you mentioned before that you went through an accelerator program, but I wanted to know whether you've raised any money yet, and also the experience you had with women versus men in terms of pitching for capital.
Yes. Okay. Very happy to say that I'm no longer pitching because we raised $1 million.
Congratulations. I think we should.
But raising that $1 million was so hard. So that's all told. So we've actually already spent half of it, because the way that we raised on something called a safe note, where it's called a simple agreement for future equity, and you can take cash in the bank, start spending it while you keep raising it. So that's allowed us to get to where we are today. So I raised the first bit through the incubator program. And because I went through an incubator program, I'm sort of going along this journey with a lot of other founders. And it's every 6 months is a new cohort. So there's a bunch of us, like a lot of startups that I can look at that are really like peer-to-peer at the same stage. And you look at the ones that are run by male founders, and they raised $1 million a year ago. And some of them are still pivoting their ideas. Some of them are thinking, do we give back the rest of the money because it's not really working? And I was like, I've already had $36,000 people do my like little Facebook quiz, and give me their bra size and their email address. So I just like look at that and I'm like, I definitely feel like it was harder for me. And when I spoke to other women, that was echoed. And then I stumbled upon this research which is amazing. And basically, there's this woman called Dana Cairns who did this research. She was an entrepreneur turned academic, and she'd noticed that her co-founder, who was male, used to get different questions to her. So she looked at 6 years of research, and basically what happens is that investors ask women questions that are more focused on potential losses and risks. So like, well, oh, your growth is great, but how are you going to sustain that? When are you going to break even? You know, like, who are the potential competitors? Like, what are the threats? Whereas men get asked, you know, how big could this be? So you come out of a meeting with a woman, and even if I've done the perfect job defending myself, it's a zero-sum game, and it's kind of like, okay, well, she seems competent, but, you know, it's not that exciting. Or you go out of a meeting with a man, and you're like, well, of course it's risky, it's startup, but I can't afford to miss out on this massive thing. So as a result, women get less checks and less of them. And her results were that women earn 7 times less. So that's 7 times more that I have to spend in meetings, taking away from the business, pitching, versus men, or I just end up with less money. And like, I guess I'm lucky that I had nothing else going on in my life. So I was able to pitch and just watch Netflix. But if I had anything else going on in my life, because it's a bit more interesting, then I don't know whether I would have got there. And I just think about all the women who haven't been able to raise money and all these amazing ideas and these amazing women who like should have got money and these ideas should be live and they're not because of this bias. But the silver lining is you can learn how to answer prevention questions about risk with a promotion answer.
I'm sure you got very good at that by the end.
I didn't because I read this research too late. So next time. But like the example is if somebody says like, when are you going to break even? You could say, well, I'm not managing to break even. I'm managing for aggressive growth and we're doing X, Y, Z. So if you're pitching, do that.
Write that one down. Now, Audrey, you've raised a couple of rounds of funding over the years. What have you learned about the process that might help people prepare for it?
I think I agree with Sarah. And, you know, I think my first question would be, are you ready for the journey, like the venture journey? I think that it's a very important decision that you have to make. And Glam Corner was self-funded for 3 years, from 2012 to 2015, and we got that big dream and big mission, you know, big idea, but again, like, you know, in order to make the industry, you need a lot of capital. You need good backers. And in 2015, that's where we were at that crossroad in terms of, shall we continue going like, you know, like family-run business? But then again, you know, like the demand is growing. The demand is out there, but we can't actually keep, you know, we have very limited capital to buy the collection or like, you know, invest in like team or invest in the technology. So at that point, we really realized that we, you know, like you have that big market opportunity there. Either we close the door or we go for that next step, leap of faith. We need to take that jump. And that's when we actually took on our very first external funding from A3 Ventures. You know, again, we were looking for a partner. I think that when you're looking for, I guess the question is, are you ready? Are you in that stage? And then, yes, if you are, the next step is to make sure that you bring in good partners, not just money, smart investors, smart people, business partners, not someone who just like throw money at you and like, you know.
That sounds really nice.
You know, it's like, you know, you want, you know, that sounds really nice, but then also like I feel that you really want people who really like support you, because like when things are good, you get like, yeah, high five, you know, but when things are not good, how are they going to act? Like, you know, so I think it's really important. And I think that if you are on the fundraising journey, I think that probably it would be good to do, the best would be founder referral. I think referral is really good. And again, like, you know, with VCs, they have huge backlog and like a lot of emails coming in. So also you want to interview them too. It's not one-way street, you know, it's a two-way street. Like, how do they act when things are tough? Were they supportive or how do they act? And I think that for me, to prepare for it, I think that emotionally and mentally. In addition to that, I think definitely, as I mentioned, I think unit economics is really important. You know, like I guess you can go and raise and raise and raise, but is your business going to be one day profitable eventually? Yes, you are in the growth mode, but can you be profitable? Can you sustain this business eventually? So I think it's really important to, of course, have the traction, but also at the same time, this is my unit economics. This is how I make them, you know, how I make the money, these are the costs, and I will be growing tremendously. But if anything happens, I can pull back and I can sustain that growth, which we had to use that card last year during COVID as well. Like we have to act what we have to take into action of what we preach and what we kind of like have to follow. And I think that definitely the important thing is finding the right investors. I think that's really important. And again, there are a lot of sharks, a lot of time wasters out there. So like, I guess you will know. Like you will know when you're in the first meeting, and then like you will know, and then like please just walk away. Just like, it's just that you don't want to waste your time. Like, when you're building business, time is the most valuable commodity that you have. So you definitely don't want people who are wasting your time. You want people who can see the vision, who want to be part of the journey, good or bad, to be part of it. So still learning, a lot still to learn, but hopefully this is just the experience I have so far. So hopefully it can help someone in the room.
Yeah. Now we're very quickly running out of time. Sarah, before I get on to a couple of audience questions, I wanted to know, Miss Tyler's so young still, but what are the next steps for you? Where do you see the business growing in 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, so with our money, we have a 12-month runway. And that basically gets us to the next stage where we raise more money. And our business is very different. Like, 'cause we don't have a product that we're selling for money. Everything's free right now. But our business model is that if this is available from Q, which is a partner of ours, and if you went and bought this from our website, then we would get commission back from Q. And then we share that with our contributors. So that's how we make money. But to get to a point where people are buying, we need to have lots of content that's fresh, that's relevant. So every time I go there, I want to keep coming back. And then when I think to buy, then I'm going to buy through here because I can filter and go cocktail for winter, bam, and buy. But that's going to take time. And if you look at Instagram, in April 2012, they had no money, they had no revenue yet, and they were acquired for $1 billion. And then, a few years later, they made, $20 billion in revenue. So we're sort of along that journey. So our next phase is raising a Series A. And for us to get there, what we're focused on at the moment is our product. So building out what we think is core, fixing things. At the moment, you can go and see women that you like and you can heart them to follow.
Yep.
Turns out that's not very obvious, so we're going to change it to follow.
Yep.
And we're just like fixing a bunch of things just to make the app more intuitive. Once we've got it to a good place, then we go back to growth. And so how do we make the app more shareable? How do we re-engage users? And how do we just grow really fast so that we can show the next round of investors, our trajectory?
Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to finish on one really good question from the audience. This is for both of you. Your businesses demonstrate why STEM should not be a male-dominated field. Do either of you have a background in tech or engineering, and how did you upskill?
Me, Sarah.
Go, Audrey.
I don't have a STEM degree. I did commerce at uni, but I did study as I was a science student. I did study science and maths until I finished high school. So I think that it is. I guess to Edwina's point as well, that I think that it is important. I guess to. Have the appreciation for STEM because, again, it is a very male-dominated industry, and I think that women can definitely do it. We also belong in that industry as well if we choose to, if we want to, and then but I think that it's really important that we really appreciate STEM and starting from young age because one of the challenges that we face as a business is that we really are recruiting our engineers, for example. One of the things that I actually tell the team is I really want to recruit more female engineers. We are a female empowered business. We need more females sitting in the room, not just male engineers, but it has been I have to say, it has been challenging to find female engineers. And I was thinking, what is happening? What is going on?
Well, that comes back to the pipeline issue, which we've discussed this
Absolutely.
morning. Yeah.
So I think, personally, I don't have the STEM degree, but I do feel that it is really important, and I think that we should definitely empower our next generation to go out there and study and learn STEM.
Yeah. And what about you, Sarah, to finish off?
Yeah, well, I worked in technology for a long time, but I'm not a coder. I've always been a marketer. And so I think, from my point of view, it's always looking at what are the problems and what are the solutions. And I think for a long time, coders were king or queen, and people were building stuff, even if they didn't really know why they were building it, just because it they could, and it was like an innovation. And then it started to be like, oh, we've got to find product market fit, so let's start learning and iterating. But I'm like, why wouldn't you just start with a problem and an actual solution? And I think that can then drive you. And there's lots of like low tech, no tech, different ways you can get started where you don't need to have coding to create like a technical solution now. I would love to be able to code because it means that I wouldn't have to pay people to do these things. But when I was in the US, I created my first app called Weather Then, and it was just because I used to think, I wonder what does 12 degrees feel like? When was the last time it was 12 degrees and how did I feel? But so I'd Google yesterday's temperature because I'd be like, well, I remember how I felt yesterday, and I'd be like, it was 13 degrees. Okay, cool. So now I know what 12 degrees feels like. So I created Weather Then, which shows you today's temperature and yesterday's temperature and tells you it's warmer than or colder than. And so then through that, I found a Ukrainian development team that built that, and I designed it in PowerPoint because I also have like no design skills. And you just kind of like start to hack it together. And I think once you start to realize that you can actually have an idea and then execute on it, it becomes really hard to not execute. And then you just start learning more and more things and dabbling and finding ways to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's what I've got out of the chat today. It's like solving these problems that you women came up against, but just having ideas. Like you said, you don't have to be a coder, but it's also, there's so much value in having that great idea and being able to action and execute it, and having the guts to back yourself as well, and then going and getting the funding. Mm-hmm. Sorry, we've run out of time, ladies, but thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for everyone who sent in questions as well. I'm sorry I couldn't answer them all. There were so many, so thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.